So, another initiative of yours, could you please elaborate about the World Parliament experiment? Like, how does that work? What's the core philosophy and the current
Mhm.
situation?
Yeah, this is my main project. I started this many years ago already. And for me, it's a very practical project, an internet parliament. Everybody can join it. We talked before about top-down approaches. This is certainly a bottom-up approach. All citizens of the world are invited to go to the global voting platform. They can vote on anything. We have United Nations decisions there, national parliaments, including the national parliament of India, Germany, United States of America, and so on. So I think this is a very hands-on project, and in my opinion, it has a huge potential. I have to admit, it is still small in its scope because most people do not even know it exists. But I think even in particular, if more and more people join it, it could have a tremendous impact on international politics. And that's my main project, and that's what I am working for.
So, will it be correct to term the World Parliament experiment as a platform for referendum or plebiscite, some sort of parallel referendum? And also, how will we witness the execution of the bills passed by the members?
Yeah, global referenda could be part of it, but it depends on the initiative of its users, what the subjects are. It could be anything. It could be a petitions or initiatives similar to petitions to certain decision makers, but we, in a certain way, it already is a virtual parliament where people can elect representatives and they can lobby parliamentarians. If people are interested, I wrote a discussion paper for Democracy Without Borders. The title is United Humans. United Humans means a new world organization. Instead of United Nations, we can have a United Humans organization in the future. And this Internet World Parliament can play a very important role in this picture. So I hope that also our conversation will lead some listeners to look up the website and simply join it, because our slogan is very simple: global democracy is possible if you support it. So every single world citizen that goes to the website and participates in the project makes this stronger. And I hope that someday the majority of the world population will join a project similar to this one. Does not have to be exactly the one we are organizing at the moment. It might develop in the future, but something like this, in my opinion, is very much needed and very much possible if world citizens understand the opportunity it offers.
Sure. And for the convenience of our viewers, we'll be attaching the link to the website in the description. So you could go ahead and you could access. And I would personally encourage you to be a part of the portal. It's an amazing portal, by the way.
Thank you very much. It's very much appreciated.
I had the opportunity to be a part of the voting proceedings for the UNPA 2021, and I found it to be really cool. So I wanted to know more about it and to like spread the word among other people as well. And today we have the founder of the project himself with us, so it's great. It's a great thing indeed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have to say that there are different projects, several good projects in a similar direction. For example, we have Model United Nations projects. They are also very good. We support them. But what we are doing is going one step beyond that, because this is not about learning how to act in existing organizations, but it's in a certain way we are trying to create a new organization. You could say in a certain sense we are trying to create a world federation, and it depends on us whether this institution is created or not. Yeah, so I think in addition to a federation of democratic nations, it is also important that we create a federation of democrats, of individuals, that world citizens join their forces and organize themselves. I think we live in a unique time. For the first time in human history, this is possible now, and it depends on us whether or not we accept that. And I'm glad to see that young people like you are going in that direction, because this will really help our cause to be successful.
Absolutely. Carrying that forward from the previous question, as you previously stated, it was during the Cold War, it was during after the World War period that the movement was at its peak, with famous personalities joining in and supporting the cause. Do you observe any similar impact during the ongoing Russia-Ukraine crisis?
You mean, why is it that the peak was after the Second World War, or?
No. My question is that it's generally observed that after a war period or maybe during an ongoing war, people's interest in world federalism increases and we have greater support. So is that happening this time also with the Russia-Ukraine crisis? Do we have more people who are interested in world federalism and democratic world government?
Yeah, okay, I understand. I think we can observe that to a certain degree. Fortunately, it's not a world war yet. It could develop into one, so we have to be very, very careful. And I'm against this notion that we need a major crisis to make this happen. Of course, this is one possible scenario, that a major crisis creates new institutions. But I don't think it's the only one, and it's certainly not my favorite one. I think we are human beings. We could do the right thing without bad things happening. Yeah, just because we see it would be a good development. So there are different scenarios, top down, bottom up. Our executive director in Democracy Without Borders, Andreas Bummel, wrote this book about the World Parliament, and he describes different scenarios, and the major crisis is just one of 4 scenarios. I recommend to read this book. I think it gives a very good perspective on possible scenarios and other aspects. So I think we should work for global democracy and try to get it before very bad things happen. And I think that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And again, if I may put forward my opinion, it's not a world war that I fear, because currently countries that are too intelligent to engage in world wars. I fear proxy wars and a series of wars like this. Like, I haven't seen a single decade after the World War II when we haven't had a military conflict. Every year something or the other crops up, and a lot of people are losing out their lives. So if you have a cumulative of the people who have lost their lives, the cumulative of the destruction of property and livelihoods, that would be like that would be a very terrifying number. So again, we need to put an end to this for once and forever. We don't really need to wait for a world war to do something.
Yeah, of course we do not need, but we have to acknowledge that there is a certain risk at the moment. This can easily escalate, and as a negotiation theorist, I think it's very dangerous if you are too hard or too soft as a politician in this crisis. Both can have very negative consequences. So it is really a tough challenge that our politicians face at the moment to deal with this crisis. And on a tactical level, I think so far their reaction is not so bad in preventing that escalation, but also trying to stop bad developments. I hope that we do not lose the long-term perspective in this crisis, that we are united as, if I speak for Western countries, in a reaction, but that is not enough. Crisis management is one thing, but a long-term perspective is even more important. And for me, global democracy is the long-term perspective. You kindly mentioned my doctoral dissertation on the Kosovo War. I think that was a similar example in which it was important to do something. I think some of the actions could be justified as an exception to protect human rights. But it was obviously not enough. You need, in addition, an idea how the international system as a whole should develop and give countries and individuals an option to join that broader picture. And for me, that's one of the challenges that we face as world federalists, to develop concepts in this direction. And for me, the World Parliament experiment is one place where this should happen, that people come forward and make proposals and discuss them and try it out and even lobby real life decision makers, as I describe in my discussion paper on United Humans.
Indeed. How has your activism impacted you in the professional and personal sphere?
I try to combine that to a certain degree, my professional life and activism. So I spent a lot of time for global democracy activities, but also simple economic work, consulting clients. For me, this is another reason why I really like to be an entrepreneur and have my own company, because it allows me to balance different aspects of my life, including family life and business and politics. I think that's also something that the time we are living in is a great time, because in many countries people have unlimited opportunities, right? If I lived 100, if I had lived 100 or 200 years ago in Germany, it would be much more difficult to have that amount of freedom in my personal decisions. So we can try to use that for the better, that freedom that we have.
The next question, this is actually based on a complaint that I've received from a lot of my friends and acquaintances. Leaders of the movement in the current times are found to be very intellectual and academic in their approach, which sometimes overwhelms people. Like a lot of people, they don't understand the true essence of federalism, and leave aside federalism, they don't understand the true essence of democracy. So in that case, how do we simplify the idea of world federalism for the masses?
Mm-hmm. We try to do that. For example, the slogan that I mentioned, global democracy is possible if you support it. I think this is the key, that the masses understand that this is not a decision that is taken elsewhere, that politicians or big decision makers make for them, But it's your decision. The decision whether or not you join the World Parliament experiment, for example, will make it successful. If enough people say, yes, let's go for it, we organize this, it will be enormously powerful. That does not solve all the problems. You still have to connect it to the real world and create a development. But the simple message is it depends on you. You are from India, you already quoted Nehru. I always quote him as a negotiation advisor when he said all wars end with negotiations, so why don't we start with negotiations? But I also like to quote Gandhi, who said, be the change you want to see in the world. So I think that's a very simple and powerful message that we can give. If you want a world federation, if you want a world parliament, to a certain degree, you should be the elector of that world parliament. Just go to the website and elect people there, and it depends on you whether this happens or not. So that would be my approach to give a counter argument to people feeling powerless. I often hear that people say, oh, we can't change things anyway. And I don't think that's true. I think you can change it. I was honored to be the honorary advisor of the world largest school in India, the Montessori school in Lucknow, because some of our friends in the global democracy movement are working there, and I like very much that they say in their school, every child is potentially the light of the world, and I think that should be the motto, that in our times, individual citizens will decide the direction, and don't estimate your power as an individual. That would be my main message.
That was insightful. So going beyond, what do you think about the role of Gary Davis in the movement?
Yeah, I admire Gary Davis very much for his courage. And I think in a certain sense, he is an example of what I just said. We simply should do it. That does not mean I agree with everything he did and said. He was a very difficult person. To work with him was extremely difficult, and to argue with him. So I would not subscribe to everything. But the general example he gave to say that if we want to see this happening, we need to do it ourselves. I think it's not easy to simply, as he did, to declare world government. And of course, many people thought this was ridiculous and they made jokes about it. But to a certain degree, it is good to that he could stand that, and he did it even though. So to a certain degree, I think he can be an example for what we should do. To be honest, we also need to say that some things he did and said were also a bit too provocative, and I would not say that we should do 100%, do it 100% in the way he did. But I'm glad that he gave us an example what this movement could accomplish. So I had difficult conversations with him. So we agreed on some aspects and did not agree on others. But the world is much better with this example than without it, in my opinion.
I agree. English isn't the mother tongue of either of us and a lot more people in the world. So taking that into consideration, would you support the establishment of an artificially created global language let's say Esperanto or Globasa as the language for global diplomacy?
Mi lerni Esperanto. No, I'm trying to learn Esperanto a little bit, and I think it is a very good idea. However, I don't invest much of my time to learn Esperanto because I think it would be more intelligent as a negotiation consultant. I would say we should have a negotiation. I would say if 1 billion world citizens say they will learn Esperanto, I will do it myself. So I don't think it helps a lot if different people start to learn different languages. This can be an organized process, and if it is an organized process, I'm in. I think we should have that language. I do not want to spend too much of my time in the current state learning one of these languages, even though I support it in general and I like it if people are doing it. We can organize it in a better way, I think.
I agree with that as well. And again, it's like it's fatiguing when you go out to start a new start and learn a new language. So that's something I have been facing as well. I wanted to learn Esperanto for a long period of time, but then I sort of procrastinate and leave it.
Yeah, the good thing is I once had in an exhibition the Esperanto table was my neighbor, and when we are waiting for people to come, the colleague told me you can learn Esperanto in 20 minutes. So I tried to do that. So now I have the knowledge of 20 minutes learning Esperanto, which is quite good, but not sufficient.
Where do you see the movement for a world federation in the future?
Yeah, I hope it will play a central role because I think the world needs it. But we have many challenges within our movement that I think we need to solve. We see this in the current crisis in the Ukraine, very, very different position on that. We can even see it in projects. Not everybody in our movement thinks that it is important or even a good idea to participate in the World Parliament experiment, for example. So we have some work to do to convince each other what is a good way forward. And I don't think that we need to focus on just one or a few projects. It's good if there are several projects, but sometimes we have to admit that we were not even a good example for the rest of the world within our movement. And that's why I call the World Parliament experiment an experiment, because I think we need to do that experiment. How can we organize ourselves and how good are the proposals we make? And if we do that in a good way, I think the global democracy movement or the world federalist movement will play an important and a good role in the future. I think the future of the world, for the better or the worse, in a certain way depends on this question. So it's an important task that our movement has. But the more people join us and the more they do it in a constructive way, like you do it as a young world federalist, the more optimistic we can be. And I'm grateful and hopeful that we have this opportunity to work together. And I look forward to continuing this collaboration.
Absolutely. And let's hope for the best. Let's do our bit for the world, and let's hope other people join us in the course of time. Uh,
Mhm.
with that, how was the conversation in your opinion?
It was a very good conversation. Thank you very much also for your preparation and for inviting me and touching touching different aspects. I have to admit I'm still struggling with the point when we discussed the situation in Ukraine, that even we as two world federalists find it so difficult to reach a common ground here. But maybe that's also a good time that we are discussing this, and this would be an important point, I think, in future conversations. That does not mean that I think we as World Federalists should agree 100% on everything. It's okay to have disagreements, but I think it's also important that there's a core that we can agree. And also because you asked me about the future of the World Federalist movement, I think it will be important that we will find some kind of unity and of common ground in reacting to these crises. So I think it's important that we stay in contact and continue this discussion. And in general, as I said already, I really appreciate your work and this series of interviews that you are doing. So I encourage you to continue that, your curiosity. You are asking very good questions, in my opinion, and I wish you the best of luck for your personal development and also your contributions to our movement.
Thank you very much. And from my end as well, the interview was very enriching. And I would say the slight difference of opinion we had in between, that is a manifestation of a big tent approach. So we are basically a lot of people with different ideas, different economic and political ideologies, but at the end we agree on one thing, that is a global democratic federation, and that's what democracy is all about. So again, if our morals are similar, if our ways of interpreting something is similar, then slight differences in how you exactly work on it and how you critically analyze it, that is bound to exist, and we should welcome that. So it's been a great honor to interview you, Dr. Rasmus Tenbergen. I look forward to working with you and further association with the World Parliament experiment. So we are expecting our second iteration of the Model World Parliament sometime in July. So I was planning if we could maybe somehow use the World Parliament experiment to introduce the participants to the idea and have their opinions over there. Also, I would request all the viewers who are watching this video to share the comments in the to share their ideas and opinions in the comment section. We have a lot of ideas to be debated and discussed about, so we would like to know about that. If you like the video, please click the like button, subscribe the YouTube channel for further videos, updates and further videos such as this, and share it in your respective circles. With that, I'll ask you for one last favor, Dr. Tenbergen, how to say goodbye in German.
Auf Wiedersehen.
I couldn't quite get that, but
that was Auf Wiedersehen. Hope to see you again.
I know thank you is Danke in German, so Danke, Dr. Tenbergen, and I'll be better prepared next time with the translation.
Thank you very much.